Well, welcome everybody to our case management meeting today. As you know, this is a component of our MSpec process. Our intervention today is to support our kindergarten teacher, Michelle Rodwell, with an interventional strategies that might support a little boy in her class called Cooper. So firstly, I'd like to introduce who is out on our team today. We have Michelle Heffernan, our reading recovery teacher. As I said, Michelle Rodwell, our kindergarten teacher. Vicky Davidson, our AP. Kylie Phillips, our literacy coach, and myself as our school principal. So now I invite Michelle Rodwell to share with us Cooper's literacy strengths, please.
Well, I'll get you to open up to the documentation on page 15, and what I have done is first of all highlighted where he's working towards in relation to each aspect of the literacy continuum. So you'll notice that for most aspects he is working towards cluster 3, and for concepts of print, cluster 4. So I just wanted to situate Cooper within the literacy continuum for you. Now, he does present with many strengths, which I will take this opportunity to talk about. He is able to recognise and use beginning and final consonant sounds and the graphemes that represent these particular words in order to read. So he definitely can do that, but as I said, they're beginning and they're final. He can recognise with fluency some simple CVC words. He does attempt to write, when he is writing a word, one letter for each sound heard. You know, we're slowly mastering that skill. He can understand the concept of a sentence in both reading and in his writing. He uses left to right directionality of print, and obviously with a return sweep, because he is currently reading a level 5 reader, and so he's reading over a number of lines. He is able to segment sentences into words, and he'll use that strategy in his writing. So when he's composing, he's able to hold on to the number of words without too much prompting that go within the sentence that he's forming. And he also is able to blend 3 phonemes in a word and segment some words into individual phonemes. I've got here that he's able to identify syllables. Now, that is more than often when we are in a whole class and it's supported by his peers, and it's when we're by ear clapping out syllables. He can categorise letters by features, so he'll say, is that, you know, a straight line, a circle, a tail or no tail. He's able to do that. And he can recognise and produce the name of majority of upper and lowercase letters. He identifies a word that begins with the sound of each letter. I've said that. He can recognise high frequency words and simple regular words with the support of meaning and language structure. And he reflects on language syntax by putting words together in phrases, and you'll notice that in his running records that he's able to do that. So there's some of the strengths, Joe, that he's able to, he does show in reading and writing and in whole class situations, modelled and guided teaching.
Thank you, Michelle. We'll be able to use those strengths as helping you with some other suggestions for where to take him next. Michelle, I now invite you to talk to us about why you're here today.
Well, there are a number of areas that I'm having trouble problem solving with Cooper. So often on paper his running records and his writing samples, which I'll talk to, he's able to show some form of growth. However, I just feel that there are some areas, perhaps around individual phonemes, that he is having trouble with, that I'm noticing in his reading and his writing. And so I thought I might talk about what I'm seeing on his running records, what I'm seeing in a phonology assessment that I administered, and also what I'm seeing in his writing. And I know I've only got a few samples, but I believe these mirror exactly what he's showing day to day and across the curriculum. So with his running records, what I am noticing is that an area that he's troubled by is his self-monitoring and his self-correcting, especially at a level 5. And I don't think I can move him forward into a level 6 or 7 unless a few skills have been mastered by him. Yeah. So he will use initial phonemes, but it's more than often the final phoneme that he won't be attending to, nor the medial phoneme when he is either at difficulty or at error, or when he is attempting to monitor for self-correcting. When he is blending his CVCC words, the hour digraph is causing him considerable trouble, and you'll notice that on his on his running record, and that level 5, and also in his writing. When there's not much cross-checking of one piece of information with another during his monitoring when he is moving into self-correcting. He has trouble with varied saying verbs, and so what he'll do is, if he comes to the word shout or cried, it will always be said. Yeah. So once the text has varied saying verbs, he will just pronounce said. And that will be prompting with check all parts of the word, and he'll just say said. Looking at short and long vowels when he's segmenting, and then looking at a split digraph, and you'll notice that with brave, he just isn't, and that is very typical for his reading across the board.
Michelle, do you think that Cooper is actually listening to himself when he's reading?
Well, I'm prompting that, but perhaps not, no. He does use, so if you look at his running records, I'll look at the level 5 running record, which is Matthew is brave. And if you look at I am run down the hill, and he didn't even pause at all for that. And so he did not use any form of syntax, one bit whatsoever, and didn't realise that. And that subject-verb agreement, had no idea about that. So probably not, Michelle.
No. And he wasn't using the picture cue?
No, of showing Matthew running down. No, he wasn't.
Because as you can see, he's relying very much on the visuals.
Yes,
and not the meaning.
Yeah, and with the visual, what I've noticed is that it's only what I call half strength. So he's only using initial phoneme. He won't actually be using all parts. So even though I've highlighted visual at error, it, I believe, is letting him down still.
He mustn't know the SH. Or he doesn't know that, or
he automatically goes to said.
He just does. He goes as soon as he sees a saying verb, as in quoted. He'll just go into said, despite prompting. So that's around his reading, and then I looked at a phonology assessment that I administered because I just wasn't 100% sure about what he is applying in his reading and writing. And what I did was I started by looking at what letters and sounds does he know, and does he know how to write those. And so if you have a look on page 36, you'll notice there is the evidence of his work. And so when you're looking at single phoneme grapheme, there are a number of letters that he is unable to read or write. His letter formation, as you can see, many of his letters he's forming at the bottom.
So you feel he needs more work with letter formation?
Yes, yes,
top to bottom?
yes. And so he can tell me that that letter is the letter F. So you'll notice F there. And he'll transcribe with that letter formation there, but he will identify that that is the letter F. That for him is F. So they're the letters that he knows. You'll notice that He is unable really to write the letter E there, both long and short vowels. So I assessed him on both long and short vowels. And then you can see that, Michelle, he was able to read and write. But again, it's that application in the reading and the writing where I can see it in isolation, but at times I can't see that.
And then you'll notice down the bottom these medial.
Well, yes, yeah, that's right. He's if you're looking at his diphthongs there, no, he's not quite aware of those. And then, so that was the first part. And then what I did was I then started to look at what sort of phonemic awareness skills he's bringing to his reading and writing. And he was able to produce rhyme. That is a real strength of his, to be able to produce rhyme and discriminate between rhymes. And then when I got onto syllables, he wanted to collap every phoneme. When I asked him to, and I modelled how you look at a word and break it up into a syllabify, and he wanted to clap every phoneme.
So do you think he knows the difference between a phoneme and a syllable, or does he still need work with?
Well, I initially, before I assessed this, if I was just looking at observing him in the classroom, I would have said yes, that he was able to. And then when I utilised this assessment, it highlighted to me that he couldn't. And then when he's gone into his writing, and he's writing two-syllable words, he's unable to really hone in on the long and short vowel within a two-syllable word.
And that was really evident in that particular question there that you asked.
Yeah.
But also evident in the writing.
Yes, yeah.
So how much knowledge and explicit teaching has Cooper had with long and short vowels and open and closed syllables?
Probably not enough. And I feel that perhaps reflecting on my own practice, that it may be majority of whole class. And I haven't tuned in and looked at guided teaching or small group instruction with Cooper around that.
So do you think that might be a way that you could move forward with Cooper? With guided instruction, perhaps in that area?
Definitely, Michelle, and that when I look at his writing, if I take you to his writing now, you'll notice that that is certainly where he's falling apart with the word robot. And obviously his medial vowels play there, and also over here where he's looking at saving. I'm saving for a tiger. Again, looking at that open syllable there, long and short vowels.
And it's interesting here that he didn't actually pick up the ing in the writing, and he hasn't picked it up in his reading as well.
No. So obviously I need to look at that inflection closer to...
So are you thinking looking closer at the open syllables versus the closed, or...?
Well, I think so, and why I'm thinking that is that if you look at his phonology assessment, I feel he's stronger with his short vowels. And not with his long vowels. So if I was then going to drill this down even further, it would be long vowel sounds and thinking about how they look within open and closed syllables.
And working in a small group setting.
Yes, small group setting, because clearly he's not gaining the knowledge from a bigger setting, as in a whole class model teaching experience. Which is, evident here in his reading and writing. And then when you look at, when I've asked him to produce a medial vowel in a word, he was only able to do that in one response. And if you have a look at skill number 9 and 10, item 3 confused him with bot, because what I found was he was using memory rather than reading the word. So when he went to look at that, and I had that word up on the whiteboard, he produced bat, then but, and could not produce b-ot for me. And the same with those open syllable types on skill 10, the 3 responses from item 2 to 4 there. So that's where I'm having difficulty with Cooper and his learning.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you so much for the thoroughness of the assessments. It certainly has put us in the picture of who Cooper is at the moment and how we can support him now in the future. So I'm opening up now to the team of any other suggestions that we might like to give Michelle in supporting Cooper and his learning.
I'm only thinking with the reading, Michelle, perhaps that you could focus more on meaning prompts to build that strength and that cross-checking. The visual with the meaning, perhaps in his reading, because he's very strong, in the visual. But then again, there's a weakness there as well.
Yes, yeah.
So that might help with that.
And probably a bit more work on open and closed syllables, so doing a fair bit of segmenting that in your small group instructions might help him, probably with a focus on those open syllables.
Open syllables, yeah.
Just that explicit small group, maybe looking at flip books or even syllable sort activities.
That's good. So I could probably, perhaps after teaching him, then
Use
consolidate
that
that
as a consolidation
in his
afterwards.
literacy group activities. Yeah.
And if he is having difficulty hearing the long vowels, you might even want to use a phoneme foam or something to really help him clearly hear those how the sounds change, both in a long version and a short version of vowel sounds.
And that'll probably
Sounds.
also assist him with the reading too, using that little...
Monitoring the
Yeah,
learning.
okay.
Great.
So Michelle, you've heard a variety of suggestions today. What suggestion do you feel would work for both you and Cooper? And what do you think might be your first priority now?
Well, thinking about the suggestions, thinking about Cooper and the assessments that I have brought along to this meeting, I think it is long vowel sounds I'm going to have to concentrate on, with the intent of him being able to read and write open syllable types. Yeah, I think that would be my priority straight away.
So can we help support you in turning that priority into a SMART goal, please? All right.
Okay. So the intention is for Cooper to be independent?
Yes, independent.
Independent.
Yeah, yeah.
And we
to be
think-
able to read and write. The,
Yes, so
open-
read, yes, and write, because it's evident in both.
yeah.
So if it was only in one, then I would have said perhaps just read,
reading.
but
Yeah,
it's in
yeah.
both. Yeah, yeah.
How many weeks of intervention in a guided situation do you think you need to dedicate to Cooper and this particular goal?
Thinking about his working memory and how that does impact on his ability to draw short-term memory to help, probably at least 4 to 5 weeks. Yeah, yeah.
So how about we begin our SMART goal with maybe after 4 to 4 weeks, let's say, first of all?
Yes.
Yes, after 4 weeks of intervention, that Cooper will independently read, maybe using flashcards.
That will definitely help with him. He will need that sort of prompt and support with flashcards. Yeah, good. Yeah.
And maybe to write maybe 5 opened syllables with maybe 100% accuracy.
It would have to be.
Yep.
I think just knowing Cooper.
Yes.
And how it's really important to take his skill into mastery, otherwise he won't apply it in reading and writing. Yeah, with 100% accuracy. Yeah.
Do you think that's achievable?
Yes, because it's 5. We're talking 5, and I'm thinking about the vowels that will go with those particular long vowel sounds. So I'll be teaching that, strengthening that, because he does come with some knowledge of some vowels, as you saw. So no, I do. I think that is achievable.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So Michelle, what do you think this might look like in your classroom going forward?
Well, it's definitely going to be small group instruction, and I know that Mia and Tom could come with Cooper because they need some consolidation. Yes, so they could definitely benefit from this too. So it's taking those 3 students and thinking about Cooper, it would have to be daily. Yeah, or at least 4 times. Let's be realistic, 4 times, 4 times a week for that duration, and it'll be small group. And I'll definitely use the principle of I do, we do, you do in my small group instruction, and with that small group and utilising flashcards and the whiteboard. I think that's what it will look like. I will have to think carefully about what the other children are doing, because that takes, obviously that's hard too, to be able to think about, are they involved in high-end literacy activities? So when Georgia, our SSO, is in my room, I can certainly be using her to help monitor.
Being a good time.
Yeah. And so she's in around 10 o'clock.
Right.
So I could certainly have that time frame, and she's there 3 days a week. Georgia is.
And you could fit that in with your literacy block?
Yes,
Okay, terrific. Thank you, Michelle. So after this meeting, Kylie will go alongside and work with you in mapping out explicitly your intervention plan for Cooper. And then after the 5 weeks, we will reconvene to see how Cooper's progressed after the intervention. Thank you so much for sharing both the data and bringing Cooper to the table today. I hope the meeting was fruitful for you.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.